Oh, nice. Yeah.
On August the 27th, 1912, a new REO 5-passenger touring car dipped its wheels into the Atlantic, then left Halifax, Nova Scotia, to begin an epic automobile trip that would become the first ever auto trip across Canada, from sea to sea. The trip, instigated by an Englishman named Thomas Wilby, and supported by various boards of trade, chambers of commerce, automobile clubs, the Canadian Highway Association, and even the Anglican Church of Canada, took some 52 days to complete.
Welcome to Nova Scotia. Don't you just love the hospitality?
Hey!
And will I be able to see you? I mean, am I going to hear in the newspapers, here comes Lauren Finley with his 1912 REO coming into my town tomorrow, or?
Well, some of that probably. We have got a lot of publicity along the way. A lot of the antique car clubs are going to join us and give us publicity and that sort of thing.
Is a 1912 REO. Wow. It is absolutely gorgeous. Lauren Finley, the owner, is behind the wheel, and Lauren's going to be dipping his wheels here at Eastern Passage at the Fisherman's Cove. He's going to dip his wheels in the water here, and October 17th, he's going to dip them into the Pacific. He's going across Canada. It's the 85th anniversary of the first voyage across Canada by automobile.
This 1912 vintage REO is reenacting a little-known piece of Canadian history.
Canada automobile trip. Now, today, 3 people retracing the route made a stop in St. Francis Xavier. Lauren, Irene, and Peter Findlay are driving their own 1912 REO Special. They're accompanied by Ontario writer Lauren Findlay and John Nickel are on the adventure of a lifetime. They're crossing Canada in a 1912 REO. reenacting the first Trans-Canada automobile voyage of 85 years ago. Two Canadian auto enthusiasts drove from Halifax to Vancouver in a cross-Canada venture. Today in 1997, Lord Finley is trying to duplicate that.
Peter Finley turns the crank on a 1912 REO automobile and is back on the road again, reliving a part of Canadian history.
A REO motor car made a coast-to-coast trip was way back in 1912. Well, this year, Lorne Findlay left Halifax on August 27th to reenact the 1912 cross-Canada tour by the REO Speedway.
Findlay and passenger John Nickel are looking forward to a rest after their journey. They left Halifax August 27th in Findlay's 1912 REO touring car.
At last, on the 27th of August, the car stood with her rubber feet in the Atlantic. She was an ideal tourist car. The flask was filled with a few precious drops of the ocean. The car dashed out of the water and we were off. A hill rose immediately beyond an unprotected railway crossing and dropped off raggedly at the sides into pitfalls and sand pockets. We struck a wallow of deep tractionless stuff between the innocently tempting heap of sand at the foot and on the crest. We were caught like a fly in the tangle of a spider's web. The road soon showed signs of fickleness. It varied at every half mile. It lost its fence, then regained it. It lost its wheel ruts, then picked them up again. The telephone wires, however, which we had been following, continued undeviatingly westward. Oh, we found the remnants of the town of Franck. Everybody looked up at the great bare slopes of the slide and out at the white sepulchre of rock across the valley. A road had been cut through the debris. The only road out of Cranbrook ran south as far as Ryan. Then came a bad stretch of swamp to the international boundary at Yark, where I should be compelled to take to the railroad ties over a dangerous loop track as far as Kitchener. Our way led along the fringe of a kingly preserve, and for miles we travelled through a veritable forest tunnel of timber, the car dwarfed to insignificance by trees which shot up to the sky. Further than Alberni I could not go. The car drew up before a simple white post, on which an arrow points due east to Halifax. Below are the words, Canadian Highway. 52 days before, the car had bounced over the stones of the Halifax beach to dip its rubber toes in the Atlantic Ocean. Now it made its way to the sea. Gaily it came to a stop at the water's edge. The flask which had borne the Atlantic across the Canadian continent emptied the Eastern Ocean into the Pacific.
The beauty, I don't know, I'm going to have a problem with the book trying to describe the beauty we've seen. It's staggering. You know, whether it was out in the Maritimes or just a little stretch coming into Manitoba, it was breathtaking.
car broken down at all?
Well, I would say no. We've had a few little problems, but they've never made us stop. We broke a windshield hinge, and a windshield glass cracked on us that we had to have replaced at the Sioux. But, and other little things, a spark plug missing once in a while, but nothing that has stopped us or delayed us or taken us off our schedule.
Didn't you fix something on your own with a dime?
Yes, it was giving me a little trouble for a couple of days, not wanting to run on one cylinder, but we plugged along on 3 cylinders, which did a pretty good job. And then we had a bit of time in North Bay, so I went at it and I pulled the valves apart and took them out and looked everything over, and I discovered a small disc missing out of one of the valve lifters. It had broken, I guess, and disappeared. And I needed a little spacer to put back in, and first I tried a nickel, and it was a little too big to go into this slot, and I found that a thin dime worked just beautifully, and we put it in, and it's still running on that thin dime. Don't tell the mint.
I just can't say enough about the friendly people. The car people start to come around and talk to you, and it really...
Go down from now.
Well, welcome to Ontario.
Thank you.
And I'm Laura Shirley, and with the Monty Castle School, and like they said, we're here to see the 1912 Rio.
Presented to Mr. and Mrs. Lorne Finlay, Mr. Peter Finlay, and Mr. John Nichol on the successful completion of their epic recreation of the first automobile journey across Canada using the all-red route. August.
It's been a pleasure for us to offer